Awesome. I love it, man. That must make meetings fly by or so much more enjoyable.
Oh yeah, she just it's funny because sometimes she just wants to sit sit on my lap and just be close.
That's fun. That's a blast. That's so
I'm gonna,
cool.
I'm gonna put in a cough drop. I'm still struggling with this dang cold.
No worries. If you want to, I'm happy to if you want to find a different time if you're struggling at all or would rather push it back.
No, be all good. Be fine.
Okay. Cool. Awesome. Well, I have the everything right in front of me, so if you're good, man, we can just jump right in.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, perfect. Lars, you mentioned that everyone should start leveraging AI throughout their whole business. What exactly do you mean by that?
I think there are places, opportunities for every business to use AI in so many different elements of what they do every day in their business. It's not something to be afraid of, but it's something to have a good understanding about and to know what its limitations are because you never want to blindly trust it. It will hallucinate, it will make mistakes, but if you give the opportunity to let it do a lot of the heavy lifting for you, it'll create so much efficiency around your daily operations. And one of the obvious things that you can do with content generation, whether you're in sales or marketing, you can tell it, write me an email newsletter, write me an article about whatever. And, or if you're selling a product, help me sell this product to this person. That kind of content generation is something that will save time for your people all day, every day. And a lot of times, the challenge that I think people run into is coming up with, well, what even should I say? Does this sound tired? Am I using the same language over and over again? Like AI kind of breaks the doldrums a little bit. It allows you to think outside the box. It
Mm,
can be great, even if it's wrong and sometimes does stuff that's silly. Allowing it to be wrong will open some things in your mind that you might think,
mm,
oh yeah, that's another way that I could make this argument, or maybe this particular thing that I was trying to sell could be better articulated by mentioning this particular feature or benefit or this differentiator between my product and my competitor. So the thing about AI is that it's so good at at throwing things at you that you may not necessarily want to use just right out of the box, but it can make you think about different ways to do things that will allow your creative energy to start focusing on a particular other way of
mm.
creating the content.
Yeah, makes a ton of sense. How does this go beyond the basic copy paste that I think we all are living in? I know the models are getting better, so in that just by that alone, it's getting more. Yeah, it's just getting better. But how does that go beyond just copy paste? Like most people are using AI today.
Yeah, I mean, they certainly. I mean, there is a lot that can be done, but AI really is about putting things together from data. It really comes
Mm-hmm.
down to gathering data. The more you know about, and this is true about any conversation or anything we do in life, the more we know about ourselves and the more we know about the other person we're interacting with, the better we're going to be at explaining it is what we do and the value that we bring to the relationship. And so, to that end, the better and when I talk about understanding ourselves, I guess some of that can be kind of Zen like, like who are we really? But a lot of it is about what are we selling? And it's sort of like I remember back when I was getting my MBA, there was a case study we did on Southwest Airlines back way at the very beginning of the business, and the founders were contrasting flying versus transportation. They saw their competitors not as other airlines, but is there a better way to get from point A to point B when one of the options could be taking the bus or driving? And so it was really interesting because it's in a lot of ways like the idea of what is our competition may be more than just one of our competitor companies that's in the same vertical. Maybe we're competing against better ways of doing what it is that people would want to do. Um, I guess when I mean better understanding ourselves, it's really understanding the value that we bring. Are
Mm,
we saving time? Are we saving money? Are we helping people make things better, do things
mm,
better? Is the product more efficient? Is it able to accomplish a task in a better way? So when I talk about understanding ourselves, that's a big part of it. And then of course the other part about understanding who we're selling to or who we're marketing to really is about understanding the persona, understanding what is it that really motivates them? What makes them feel good about themselves? Is it having is it being able to do things better? Is it able to do things faster? Is it a higher level of service that you're able to provide to the client? So as someone who uses AI, the data is what makes the difference between using it well and just using it like everybody else does. Like you can always type into Chat GPT, sell someone a widget, and it'll come up with whatever. But if you say, this is my widget, this is what it does, this is why it's so great, and I'm selling it to this person, and this is what they do, and this is why they would want it, then now you've given the AI, and this is what people talk about with prompt engineering, you're giving it more direction, you're giving it more focus. And that's why data is the thing that makes the AI so much more powerful, so much more effective. And what we want to strive to be as business owners, marketers, salespeople, even customer service people, we want that to be how we leverage AI so that we're not just blindly throwing spaghetti at a wall and seeing what sticks. We're leveraging what we know about ourselves and who we're selling to, guiding the AI to make something that's a lot more relevant because that relevance is what's going to increase our conversion. It's going to be what solidifies that relationship between us and who we're selling to.
mm. You've described this hyper personalization as the marketer's holy grail. Can you break down what that actually means and why it matters?
When you're talking about marketing, one of the most important metrics that they measure, of course, is the customer acquisition costs, lead acquisition costs, things like that, conversion rates that play into those equations. Marketers are judged by those metrics. And there's always going to be some that will say, yeah, but I came up with something super creative. Isn't this really pretty? Whatever, which is part of what a marketer does, but it's really that feedback loop that measures the effectiveness of the campaign that they're really judged on. Because if you make a campaign and you've got a negative ROI or a very low ROI, and there are other things that are more effective, the money's going to go to the things that are more effective. So
Mm-hmm.
what we want to do with hyper personalization is really work on how do we appeal to the needs of every single individual individually, not as necessarily a persona, but do I know how old they are, what gender they are, where do they live, what are their interests, what are the things that truly motivate them, what or do they have a family, are they homeowners? These things may or may not be relevant to what you do, to what you sell. But the greater the understanding, the more when you're doing hyper personalization, which is really combining AI's knowledge about what you do with the knowledge of who you're selling to, guided by the the method that you want to channel that connection, what you're trying to make them do, is the more effective that is, and the more effective your campaigns are going to be, the lower your cost of acquisition, the higher your conversion rates are going to be. So what we want to do is leverage AI to allow that to happen at scale. So if we have, say, 1,000 leads in our funnel, you could go after them with, say, 50 salespeople, each managing 20 of their leads, 20 leads, maybe it's a high, whatever. So you could do that, and they could pick up the phone and they could have phone conversations, and that might have a certain conversion rate. But And that, of course, will play into the lead acquisition cost and customer acquisition cost as as you go down the funnel. But what you really want to do is figure out as a business owner, is that the best way for you to invest your money? Because as business owners, people that are in charge of strategy, and those are the people that of course you work with a lot, people that are taking that 30,000 foot view, is that a better investment for me to have 50 salespeople or 40 or 20 where I can then invest in hyper personalization AI that saves me a lot of salaries. And then maybe I make up with that in other methods that drive conversion. So, so say you have 50 salespeople and they each have 20 people in their funnel and they're able to really follow up with every single person in their funnel. That is very expensive. 50 salespeople
Yeah.
is going to cost you a lot of money. Now, if you're able to take that number from 50 to 10, and you're saving the salaries of 40 salespeople, and even if the AI costs you one more man hour or one more man year or whatever salary FTE, you're looking at the potential to if they can make up that slack using hyper personalization so that they can reach out to those leads in a timely manner that's relevant to them because their messaging now is not thought about by a salesperson, even if that salesperson is using AI. They're still manually generating this content.
Hmm.
If with hyper personalization, AI does everything. And so of course you want to put up the guardrails to make sure AI doesn't hallucinate and do something stupid. But you want to make sure that you can measure this impact because it can be substantial. If you change a sales force from 50 people to 10, and you can make up for that with hyper personalization where AI is reaching out at pre-timed intervals with relevant content that's specifically engineered for that lead, you're saving a huge amount in labor cost. And you'd without of course you'd want to measure this, but if you're able to do that personalization in a way that's effective, that could very well contribute to a at least a comparable conversion rate.
Mm.
And so then your cost of conversion goes way down because even if your conversion rate's not as good, if you're going from 50 to 10 salespeople as a business owner, you're going to be a lot more effective.
Yeah. Wow. Let's talk about personalization for a minute. What are the three levels of personalization you've identified?
I think so when you're looking at how to personalize something, there's the very simplest way is a straight mail merge, something that we've done for a long time.
Hmm.
Dear Josh, here's an offer for you that I know you can't refuse. Um, Very simple stuff, and maybe you put in like little things like, Dear Josh, I know that you're in, state placeholder, California, and therefore, you're really going to want to like this. You're really going to want this product. Whatever. It's like those little like things that kind of intersperse the document that make it seem like, oh, they know a little bit about me. That's kind of cool, I guess.
My favorite has been that on our name, it has an umlaut. And so that
Oh,
always breaks almost every mail merge. And
yep.
also on like LinkedIn, it has a dash and a whole like byline with it too.
Oh
And so
yeah.
you get that whole thing. You already know immediately. You're like, giveaway, dead giveaway.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. You merged. It's funny. I see in emails that I get where for some reason in some database somewhere my email address is all uppercase in the part that's before the at sign. So I know that if I see that, this is an automated thing because I always, if
That's
I'm going to
funny.
write my email to someone, obviously it's going to be all lowercase.
Yeah, of
But if I
course.
get an email with Lars all in caps, then I'm like, yep, that's spam. So anyway, um,
So the
there,
first is mail merge.
right. So the first is mail merge. The second is rules based merging. So rules based merging is pretty cool because it allows you to take what you know about somebody and merge in pre built content. So I can say, because you're in California, I can and I can pre-build a message for everybody in California. And I could build one for Nevada, another one for Oregon, another one for Washington, whatever, for every state. And so I can, with this pre-built content, I can say, if the recipient is in California, put the California article here. If the recipient's in Nevada, put the Nevada article here. So rules-based mail merging is a good way to kind of, it's sort of like the next level of that personalization where you can pre-build that content, and it's built really, you have the time to work on it ahead of time. And you going by state is a very simple example, but if you go by, I mean, you can look at, if somebody's gender is one or another or whatever, you can change that to have different kind of language or different imagery or
Hmm.
different color schemes, or if someone is a higher or a lower income, or if they're interested in one or another product, or if they're a homeowner or not, you can do that. So rules-based mail merge is sort of the next level because it allows you to really think about your target market, your personas, and as you build your personas, you're learning about the variability in people in your target market.
Right. And that contextual stuff's super helpful for like if you're selling a sales suite, let's say, you're going to want to position it to a rep differently than you would want a manager, or differently than you'd want a
Right.
CEO. So just by their title, you could do that rules based, which
Right.
makes a ton of sense.
Exactly. Exactly. So the last is hyper personalization. And what hyper personalization does, like what we were, alluding to what we were talking about before, it's really about taking all the information about you and who you're selling to, putting it in an AI, and generating that content on the fly. So you can
That's
do
cool.
that. You can do it with landing pages. You can do it with emails. You can do it with text messaging. You can do it with all of these things. And so if you have pre-built marketing automation sequences, you can embed hyper personalization placeholders. And we do this on our website. If you go to the Green Rope pricing page, you'll see there's a little snippet of text there that shows up that's very specific to you, or at least what we know about you if you go there. So if you haven't interacted with us before, you'll see on the pricing page it's sort of a generic paragraph of text. But if you filled out a ticket and you're logged, we're tracking you in the CRM, and you go to our website, then we will personalize that message specifically for you. Then we tell the AI, show the value and the benefits um, there. So I don't think we have that there right now. Let's see. Scroll down. Um, keep scrolling. Let's see. Is that
Oh, here we go. Yeah, your California based
there? You go.
business.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's so cool.
So yeah, we know from your IP address that you're in California, but that paragraph will be built differently every time you visit the page. So,
That's
and
cool.
that's generated. That's hyper personalization. An example of now if you had filled out a form and I knew the name of your company and I knew more about it, what it was that you did, the AI now has more to work with. And we feed that automatically to the AI. That's part of what's built into the CRM, the Green Rope platform, is that we will grab all the information that we have about a particular individual or a company and give that to the AI so that it knows when it's generating that content what has to go there.
Mm.
So so that's really hyper personalization is about making that content natural and embedding the because you read that and it looks like it was written by a professional specifically for you, and
Yeah.
and that sort of that it creates this sense of connection. It's everyone wants to feel like they're heard. They want to
Hmm.
feel like, well, if you're going to sell me something, make sure it's something that I want. And
Hmm.
what we want to do is be very clear about how we communicate the value that we bring to a particular lead because that's what drives marketing sales to be successful.
Mm. Why do you think most businesses are still stuck in this? I think you called it like a factory mindset with their approach to AI and personalization.
I think because people generally do what is, I hate to say easy, I hate to call people lazy, but they kind of are. People like to do what they're familiar with. Um, I mean, I'm guilty of this too. But if we can bring to bear more advanced tools that help us do things better, more
Hmm.
efficiently. It, of course, there's going to be a learning curve. Anytime you do something new, there's going to be a learning curve. Being able to learn how the personalization works, you're going to have to learn how it works, right?
Yeah.
It's very easy to open up ChatGPT and just write, sell this person on a thing, right? It's,
Yeah.
you know, that's familiar. It's the same reason why people use Excel and Outlook for their CRMs, because there's almost like a natural familiarity with that kind of a structure that doesn't quite lend itself to the power that you can get from actually using a real CRM and marketing automation tool.
Absolutely.
Same thing with AI. You can gravitate towards using AI for the basic, that functionality of, write this piece of content for me. But what we want to do is help businesses see that there's a way to leverage the technology. And of course, you're going to have to learn the technology. You've got to invest time into learning how it works. But once you do, you want to be able to show them this is how you're able to make the hyper personalization work for you. There's work that needs to be done up front, but that work will pay off in the sense of higher conversion rates, lower customer acquisition costs, and better relationships with your leads and clients.
Mm. What's preventing them from making this shift?
I think there is part of it is that there really aren't a lot of platforms out there that do this.
Hmm.
Um, to my knowledge, I don't know of any other CRMs that actually have hyper personalization built straight into the CRM. And obviously, I want to be here as a resource for you and your listeners, and I'm not here to jump up and down and say Green Rope is the best CRM ever. We invested a lot of energy over the last couple of years in building this functionality into the platform to
So
address
cool.
this very need. And the idea, of course, it's the Wayne Gretzky thing, right? You want to go to where the puck is going. We know that
Hmm.
AI is going to get better. If we can create a way to give the AI the tool, the data that's in your CRM in a way that lets it be more effective at creating this messaging, then we want to have those tools in place already. So as the AI improves, so can your sales and marketing.
Hmm.
It's challenging. And I mean, from the software perspective, from what we had to write, obviously we put a lot of energy and forethought into making that possible. But it's really about helping people who run a company, who do marketing, who do sales, to help them understand that there's a way to do this that can help your business. And it starts with taking that, again, that 30,000-foot view, looking at who are you, what are you selling, what are your values, and I mean, what are you really selling? Not like I'm selling this box. You're selling. Are you saving time? Are you selling status? Are these emotional things? Really understanding your customer journey. From there, you look at these places where you can use hyper personalization to be more effective at those various spots along your journey. And that's really where we want to help people kind of go from that. A lot of ways, a lot of times people that work in businesses are in the business all day. And so what we want to help them is take that step back, look strategically, and then come back down and focus. Where are these places where we can replace things that are manual with automation that still feels personal? And that's and so I think that there are several levels to why this is hard, because part of it is a strategic thing, part of it's a
Hmm.
technology thing, part of it is being open to change, and it's a human thing. So we want to help businesses see that this is possible, but ultimately it's up to the business to say, yes, I want to take advantage of these tools, yes, I want to use hyper personalization, yes, I want to be more efficient, and yes, I want to take advantage of how I can reach out to my leads and clients and make them feel more valued, and be more effective at communicating my value to them.
For a company wanting to start, what's a methodology they should follow? Assuming, let's say, because you all obviously are the ones who have pioneered building this and launching it first. So most people probably aren't going to have access to hyper personalization. So how would they start? What would be the first thing, or what would you suggest as a methodology?
I think whenever you do any kind of CRM, what I always talk about when we talk to our customers, and this is in the CRM for Dummies book, it's really about it's about understanding your business in the sense of who's your target market and what are you selling to that target, to each of those parts of the target market, and what are the data points that you need to be able to effectively communicate to those people. So if you need to know how much money do they make, if you need to know what their interests are in sports, if you need to know, do they travel a lot, where do they travel, what kind of car do they drive, whatever, that data has to be in your CRM. And so what I always say is understand your target market, and then understand the data that supports your ability to meet the needs of that target market, and write your customer journeys from a strategic perspective. So whether you're sitting back in front of a whiteboard with a bunch of stickies, you write, this is how, or you use a piece of paper or whatever. I mean, there's customer journey mapping tools are all over the place, right?
Yeah.
But you want to look at it more from the side of, this is, someone goes to my website and then they fill out my form and then we barrage them with emails and then they buy it from us. So it's way more than that. When you're modeling your customer journey, you have to understand the emotion behind the journey. So when somebody comes to your website, what is the emotion you want them to feel?
Mm.
Then someone fills out a form. What is the emotion you want them to feel? And in a lot of cases, it's safety, comfort, trust, whatever, excitement, so then how do you generate those things? So once you have an understanding of all those, your target market, your data model, and your customer journey, then you can go and look at your CRM and understand what your CRM has to do for sales and marketing, customer service, including all the custom fields that you need in place and all the automations, and the every CRM out there has a drag drop tool to help you design your sequences and stuff, and your branching logic and all that. So that is common amongst all of them, and that's something that everyone should do for every CRM, no matter what CRM and what business you're in. That's common amongst everyone. When it comes to hyper personalization, obviously you need to be working with a platform that can actually support that, if that's something that you want to do. But all of the things I just talked about feed directly into the hyper personalization, because if you look at every place where you're trying to impart an emotion, you can tell the AI, write your content towards creating that emotion.
Mm.
Tell the AI, communicate my value in the sense of creating trust with our product, create a sense of excitement about how we can solve this problem for you. So you're using your knowledge of your business model and the data that you can gather in your CRM to feed how you design your prompts for the hyper personalization and the AI. And all of those things are connected together.
Yeah, it's so true. You were talking about seeing a lift. You had mentioned seeing a lift of like 30 to 70% in conversion rates with hyper personalization. Can you
Yeah.
share any specific examples that demonstrate that impact?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen that directly because of the hyper personalization that you see, that you brought up earlier. We do that on the pricing page. We do that on a few other pages and in the follow up emails. And when you request a demo, we use our support ticketing system for that. So the what happens is someone says, I want to have a demo. We create a ticket, and so then that first response that you get when someone makes a demo request is actually generated by AI. And so
Mhm.
when you fill it out, you'll get a response within a couple minutes. So I don't we don't have a big company. We're 15 people, right? So I don't have a bank of salespeople just waiting for the phone to ring or for someone to open up a ticket or whatever. I have a small staff. So we use the AI when you fill out the form. It will say, it'll look up your name. We do automatic data appending based on your email address. And so we load that into the CRM record. And then we feed that into the AI for the hyper personalization of the response from the ticket. And so that That is what creates that personalized experience when someone requests a demo. And since we have done that hyper personalization in those demo request follow ups, what's fascinating is, I mean, we've had a lift in conversions, but it's about the number of people who actually show up. Our no show rate has dropped 40%.
Wow.
And I don't know if that's because that message, I mean, it's really the only thing that we've changed in the last 6 months.
That's so
But going, about 6 months ago, we built all this out and we started using it. Um, and so the no-show rate is huge for the salespeople, right? Because now those messages that they got when they made a demo request, within a few minutes, there was something specific about them and their business and how we could directly help their particular business. Because we look up what industry they're in, we look at their competitors, we pull all that information in, and then we feed that back in the demo request ticket that gets open when someone makes a demo request.
And just for context, for those who can't, I'm going to share my screen again because I think this is really cool to see it live. And for those who can't see, I just filled out a demo request a few minutes ago. Let me minimize this. I just filled out a demo request a few minutes ago, and sure enough, I have this updated. Here, we'll zoom in a little bit.
Oh, there it is.
So I have this updated, and it already says, for those of you who can't see it, it says, integrated platform that can significantly benefit businesses like Huify. No crazy merge, no funny business. It's the way it's like someone just typed this out by streamlining sales, marketing, and operations. So I mean, right there, it pulled what it knew about us, where it's going to hit on sales, marketing, and ops. It didn't talk about success. It didn't talk about these other things because it knows from context that that's what we would focus on. And it's got some personalization here. Thank you, Matt. I can see it's Matt's booking link. Pretty cool. That's awesome, man. That's so sweet how you guys did that.
And if you had filled out more information about what you were looking for specifically when you made that demo request, you would get more information about how that was tailored specifically to what you were looking for a CRM.
That's awesome. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I purposely didn't because I wanted to see how far it would go with very little context. And it
Yeah.
already did great. It already did enough that it's like, all right, sweet. Makes
Yeah.
sense to me. That's pretty cool. How long does it take to get these kind of results? I mean, you guys have been working on this, you said, for years, building the tech to be able to enable this type of a thing. So
Mhm.
how long have you seen from not doing it to having had done it?
I think the development of the AI tools it's been about 2.5 years, I think, since we first started. It was really once ChatGPT kind of became a commercial thing,
Sure. Yeah.
where because I think before ChatGPT, it was it was very much kind of like it was a hard to reach thing. I think the thing that ChatGPT did better than everybody else was they made it very easy. So their APIs are super simple.
Mm-hmm.
And so, there's a lot of customization and tweaking and things that you can do for them. But the way it's able to parse very unstructured instructions is awesome because it allows us to structure it ourselves and say, here's a JSON file with all the relevant data. It knows how to read JSON, it knows how to interpret that, and then push that over into the response. So and even if it wasn't in JSON format, I mean, you can do all kinds of things and tell it to customize the way it writes anything, and it's able to respond to it. So I think that was really the game changer, and I think a lot of other
Right.
companies are playing catch up, and I haven't really invested a lot of time into DeepSeek or
Sure.
Grok or any of the other ones. We just sort of focused on OpenAI's solution for now, but it works very well.
That's cool. For someone just starting out, I mean, is it something where you can plug this in and you don't have to test or anything? It's just ready to go, or
Yeah.
what's the process you recommend for them?
Yeah, I mean, for us, I mean, when someone signs up for Green Rope, we actually do all the AI included, so it's all free. So
That's cool.
yeah, you can put in your own keys if you want. If you're worried about, I mean, we don't. The keys really for us are just, the prompts and the instructions are all separate on their own, whatever. But
Sure.
if you're concerned about other people sharing the data somehow that you would push, we're on a professional plan where they're not supposed to share that data or anything. So,
Hmm.
and we just offer that as a benefit of being a Green Rope user. I think if you're very concerned about your data getting out, then that's something that you'd want to think about in terms of, like if you're used to using ChatGPT for free, it's going to use your data to train, which some people it freaks them out, which I can understand. Um,
Sure.
so you just kind of want to be aware of all the ramifications of those kinds of things. But what I wanted to do was make it so, and I've done this from the very beginning. Our CRM is really focused on being simple, trying to not nickel and dime you. So we include all of our features for free. The only thing that we charge extra for is texting because there's tech costs to
The
send a lot of
volume
text.
costs. Yeah.
So, um, there's a lot of networking costs, and the cost of text can go up quickly.
Yeah.
So, but
Sure.
aside from that, there's really, everything else is included. So, we've got a project manager, a learning management system, a knowledge management system, surveys, event management, calendars, all that stuff. We just include.
That's cool.
And
That's awesome.
yeah, and it's really about simplicity. I don't want people to have to think, do I
Hmm.
need to invest more to be able to unlock this particular feature?
Sure.
Every account comes with full CRM and custom objects and all the complexities that you could want with sales enablement, marketing automation, support ticketing, chats. We've got AI chatbots, all those things. They're all built in.
That's cool. What is someone starting out and they're trying to figure out like, okay, how do I make sure that AI stays on brand, it's effective, it sounds like me, looks like me, talks like me, walks like me, whatever. What are some good guide rails that you would suggest putting in place, or just a good process that you would suggest anyone new should make sure they do?
So, one of the things that we have built into our platform is fine tuning. So, fine tuning allows you to modify the way the AI responds in the sense of language. It's not so much for limiting the source of the large language model. It's more about how do I structure my response so the voice sounds like me. So you can create this and using the chatbot model, you can say this is how I would respond to this question. This is how I would respond to that question. So using that, you can guide the AI to respond or to create content in a voice that matches the way that you want. So fine tuning is one way to do that.
Mm.
Another way are explicit guardrails. So there are things that we write in there, about being professional and not using foul language and all that stuff, right? That's all part of our prompts. But
Hmm.
the when you're writing the hyper personalization prompt itself, if and this is why testing is important. We did a fair amount of testing and saw the AI would occasionally it would throw weird stuff in there, like and so what we would do is specifically say, do not do this. Take extra time to ensure that this is not done, that kind of thing. And so for things that were important, do not, because I don't like to mention competitors in that demo request form, right?
Yeah.
So, and at the beginning it was doing that. So I had to, so I added that as a guardrail in the response. So if someone makes a demo request, I don't want to say, choose us and not, XYZ. I want,
Free advertising for,
right,
oh, I didn't even know
yeah,
there were those other ones. I should check out. Yeah.
right, right. So, but that's a perfect example of using a guardrail
That's smart.
to to keep the AI from doing stuff. And so that's why you have to test things like this. And so
Mm.
we do that with all the prompts. You can run a bunch of tests and you'll see like these are the things, this is a common response. And you can run it for specific individuals if you want to see how they respond, how the AI would generate personalized content for this individual person. So you
Mm,
can see and just run it a few times and see what it does. Um, so yeah, I mean that kind of testing I think is important because
hmm.
the AI in a lot of ways is a black box.
Yeah.
We don't know exactly how, I don't think anybody really knows how it puts together its responses. So the more you can anticipate those kinds of guardrails, I think the better off you're going to be from a brand consistently
Mm.
standpoint.
For businesses that are using spreadsheets for CRMs, or they've got even a more complex CRM, but they're only using basic mail merge for personalization, what's the first step that they should do in modernizing their approach?
I think the customer journey mapping is really the key.
Mm,
You have to, I think you have to have a good understanding of strategy before you dive into tactics. And that's always been the thing that's been a challenge when I've talked to other people that are looking at CRMs, that the CRM is a means to an end. The thing that it's really solving or should be solving for you is what are the challenges in your business, sales, marketing, and operations? So, what do you need to have solved? Who are you selling to? How do you support them? And so, if you're able to do that, usually when people actually honestly do that about their business, they realize that the spreadsheet doesn't cut it. Running a CRM off of your Outlook doesn't cut it. You need a real, that's why CRMs were invented. But again, there's this human desire to stay with what's comfortable. It's very easy to say, well, the spreadsheet works for me. I don't need to do, or in the spreadsheet and my email program are all I need. And that might work if you have a few customers and your business is one person. The moment you have more than one, everything gets more complicated. You start running into data collisions and lost data and lost leads, and then yeah, it's a terrible place to be. So
mm,
so what we want to do is help that transition happen.
mm-hmm.
And the best way to do that is to guide that with strategy. And that goes back to what I was talking about before with understanding your customer journey, your market segments, and your data model. All of those are key to knowing how to guide your CRM to do what you want it to do. Your marketing automation tools, your customer service tools. Because if you know what you want, you're able to go find it. If you don't know what you want and you say, I'm just going to pick X CRM because my friend told me it was great, you have no idea if it's going to be great for you. And so that's why you got to do the homework first. You got to know your strategy first.
Looking ahead, what do you think is on the horizon, or what should we be looking out for around AI CRMs? What are you excited about?
I'm excited to see AI get better at problem solving. As it is right now, AI is not good at messy procedures. If you can't easily flowchart something to an AI, it very easily gets confused. And I think that as they get better, and I've been playing around with 4.5, it is a little bit better than 4.0 or 4.0 and 4.1. It's not great. If you throw things that are not easily defined at it in terms of process, it gets it gets confused. But I think as we get closer to GPT-5, I think we're going to find it's going to be better at that, and I'm excited to see what that does in terms of actually understanding rather than just saying like here are some strategies, finding ways to turn those strategies into actionable flows. I think are going to be those are going to be I think that's going to be the big difference maker when it comes to AI and its ability to impact the way we do business.
What's one piece of advice you wish someone had given you when you started implementing AI into your business?
Boy, I don't know. When I started, there wasn't a lot of people. I mean, people talked about AI, but there weren't a lot of people that used it on a daily. Um, I think the big thing is to be prepared for hallucinations, to be prepared for needing those guardrails on the content that it generates. I was always surprised that you can tell, especially if you ever done work with the images, where you can, you can say like, I don't know if you've seen the guy that's like has the bowl of, he's got a bowl of rice and carrots and peas, and he says remove the peas, and it just totally screws it up and adds like broccoli, and it's like, so once AI is better able to do that kind of interpretation, I think we'll find a lot better value that comes out of it. But I think knowing, having a realistic understanding of where it's going to fall down, and knowing that there are going to be some things, at least currently, that you don't want to replace with AI. If you're doing anything that's absolutely mission critical, where an AI makes a mistake or makes a hallucination and that could affect somebody's life, then don't use AI. Use You can use it to help guide a person, give ideas to a person, or make recommendations, but the final decision should never be made by an AI when you're talking about something that's going to be like a life or death kind of thing.
Mhm.
So, and it's very, I think it's similar with with content generation too. You want to be really careful. If you're doing hyper personalization, get as many guardrails up as you can.
That makes sense. I mean, your example of the competitors was so good. That was like made so much sense. Lars, this has been great. I really appreciate you coming on unpacking this. Thanks so much for coming on to the show.
Oh, I'm great. I'm great to be here. Super happy to see you again. I know it's been a few years since we met in
It's been a
person, but
while.
yeah, it's great to see you and great to see you're happy and doing so well.
Thanks, man. For those who want to connect with you and talk more about this, obviously they can go to greenrope.com. Where else would you recommend where do you like to connect with people?
LinkedIn is a good way. I'm on that fair number, a fair amount. Just send
Perfect.
connect with me and send a message. I'm happy to be a resource. I try to sift through. I get a lot of spam. A
I
lot of people
bet.
are like I'll sell you 1 billion leads for $5. Like I get so many of those. But if you reach out with like a real message, I'm happy to connect and share my thoughts and just be a resource for people.
Awesome. Lars, really appreciate you coming on, man. This is fantastic.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Cool, man.